proceed?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. The trends for the last 3 years showing the difference in increases in the certified values. And of course, that's kind of been the goal, is everybody was complaining about the certified values going up so much in the last few years, and the legislature was addressing that too. So anyway, this year, the certified values went up $213,613,544 dollars, and that was in the report from the chief appraiser. It's almost $63 million in new taxable value. It actually had 69 million, but the actual taxable value is 62,958. So.
But that's after they give them the $100,000.
Well, that's just new taxable value, new homes, new businesses going in.
Yeah.
That's all new that we actually are able to tax. In other words, that's not just an increase of 213 million on all existing properties. A large portion of that is brand new tax value. Okay.
So it's new items on the road.
Yeah. All right. So last year, and you can see the difference. Last year it went up $856 million, and that's right at 4 times what it went up this year. Okay? And then looking at the year before, in 2022, it went up double what it did this year. So, in other words, the point is we're not having the increase in the certified values again. We've got to take that into consideration in the way we budget, to make sure we understand some of those numbers that were going up are not going to be there possibly in the future. Okay. All right, a breakdown of the revenues and the revenue streams from the adopted budget in 2024 and the proposed budget that you got in front of you for 2025. Now, if you look at, of course, property taxes are the largest part of funding our budget. Budget's about 28 million. So, the two major revenue sources that counties have is property taxes and sales tax. And so we budgeted $17,355,952 last year's what the budget we adopted, with $4 million in sales tax, using a little over 2.3 million in surplus, or basically a deficit budget. And then all other sources of revenue, that's going to be court fines, that's going to be fees that the different clerks collect, and things like that. That was 15% of our budget, so about $4 million. And if you look at 2025, I think I circled some of these. So yeah, okay. So we're up. The sales tax is essentially flat. Okay. Now, one of the things about, well, I'll come back to interest income a little bit later. The third, and it's very volatile, but the third source of revenue is interest income off of our funds that are in the bank, okay, or that are invested by the treasurer. But the property taxes this year are with those 213 million in new appraisals is 18,669,37. $18,669,37. Okay. The sales tax again is level, still $4 million. The proposed budget reduces the deficit down to $1,652,344. That's actually less than what I filed with the proposed budget last year. It was about $1,670,000 something. I've got that in a slide, I think, somewhere else. All other sources, 13%. So that's 13%, 2% less than what it was. That's down a little bit as the percentage of the budget from all other sources. Okay. And I just highlighted the fact that sales tax is essentially the same budgeted as last year. And then the difference in the budgeted surplus. All right, now the expenditures, two primary expenditures for the county. 53% of the budget is, last year was $14,656,961. That's salary with all the withholdings, okay? And then the second largest expense is healthcare. $2,394,000. I think that's, essentially the percentage of the budget is the same, 9%, okay? That's gonna be proposed for this coming year. Capital outlay, $885,049, and, other expenditures or to fund our budget is $9,751,485, or 35% of our budget. So essentially, 62% of our budget is our employees' salaries and health insurance, okay? That was last year. This year, essentially the percentages stayed the same. The only real increases in other expenses, our real increase is only in salaries. So the budgets are very similar, between last year and this year, as you'll see when we start looking at it. But salaries for 2025 are proposed at $15,008,507, or 53%. Health insurance, $2,404,080, and that's 9% of the budget. Capital outlay proposed for next year, $775,049, 3%. And then, other expenses, $9,842,820, and that's 35% of our budget, okay? Now, as I mentioned earlier, you've already seen this slide, but, Commissioner Mims, hadn't made it yet. So our indigent defense, just showing that we're on the same trend to be very similar to last year. It'll fluctuate a little bit, but our courts are doing a lot more. And of course, that's court-appointed attorneys that we have to pay, okay? I'd like to blow this up more, but,
It is in the proposed.
do what now?
This is in the
Oh,
proposed.
it is in your proposed budget,
The
okay?
P1.
So there was changes made, that you'll see. The shop, y'all closed the shop. Commissioner Mims had asked that everybody else had a mechanic, that the mechanic's salary, or I guess the chief mechanic, his salary be moved to, Road and Bridge 2, so all 4 precincts would have a mechanic, so that's in there, okay? And, some of the other expenses that were in the shop were moved to precinct 2 into, I think, construction, okay? Let's see, some things that you'll see, the bond, coordinator, we did that as a part-time salary. That's added as a full-time salary this year in the, sheriff's budget in, under, bond supervision. You'll see that, let's see. In elections, you're gonna see that we added an employee in elections, and I'll explain that when we get to that budget, okay? And there's a couple of things between emergency management and, we added some overtime in emergency management and in elections. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But we didn't have to use the $200,000 in contingency for the other 6 jailers, so, that was removed. And then, let's see. General fund, what Megan has is the anticipated fund balance at the end of, 2025 with this budget is $7,360,000, is that 6?
703.
Okay, $7,703,632.
Yes.
Thank you, Joey. You might have to help me on some of these. I got a new prescription coming. All right. Now, I wanted to kind of show you what the court has done for everybody in the county as far as raises. And what I'm proposing this year is gonna be a $1,200 across-the-board increase for all county employees, okay? But this is what this court has done for the county's employees for last year, this year, and what's proposed for next year. So we did a $2,000 raise, and y'all had done that as I was coming in. I supported that because we were trying to get people up, stop some of the turnover. We did last year, if you remember, at the beginning of the year, we did a $1,500 ARPA retention incentive pay for everybody that, we couldn't do it for the elected officials or the appointed officials, but we could do it for the employees, and we added that. So that was actually a $3,500 increase for, all the county employees except elected and appointed. And then for this year, did a $2,400 increase across the board for all the employees. And all the licensed employees at the sheriff's office, the DA's office, the constables, everybody that has certification pay, got a $600 increase to whatever certificate pay level they were at. So that essentially the law enforcement got a $3,000 increase this year for this year's budget. So looking at that, for what's proposed for 25, over 3 years, that's a $7,000 raise for the employees, including the $1,200 what's proposed, the elected officials $5,600, and then for all law enforcement $7,700. So the court has been trying to get salaries up, and at this point we've got to address this deficit, and so I felt like we could propose the $1,200 and reduce our deficit and still make sure that everybody gets a cost of living raise. Okay. This is the elected official schedule. It's in your budget books, and of course, I'll be, like I did last year, it shows the salary increases, but I'll be doing the donation back to the county, like I did last year, okay? This is a kind of a history on our ending fund balance as we've talked about. So, $8,919,750 for 2021. 2022 is $11,374,464, and then 2023 is $11,668,244. What we estimated at the end of the year, what was estimated is $9,355,976 at the end of this budget year, 2024. And everybody needs to understand, we're on a calendar year, so it's January 1st through December 31st of 2024. Some counties and cities are on a different budget year starting in October or something, so ours is a calendar year. So what's with the budgeted fund balance in the proposed, that leaves us $7,703,632. If you take 28 million, one of the recommended things that's for years and years is to make sure you got 3 months operating in fund balance, okay? And with a $28 million budget, that 7.7 is essentially 3 months operating. So if something bad were to happen in the county and we had a tornado come through and we had to have some things that get done in a hurry and an emergency, then, and we've got to still be able to pay our bills and pay employees and everything else, that gives us essentially 3 months operating, okay? Now, the goal is to underspend our budgets, and a lot of people are doing that. And the philosophy is just because you don't spend it, that doesn't mean we go in and cut your budget. Each elected official has got to be a good money manager themselves, okay? But to give them enough that they don't have to worry, can I order this or whatever if I need it for documents or anything else, that they've got a budget that'll take care of them, and then they have to be a good money manager. And that's happening, so, this is the history on the budget deficits. So, on the adopted budgets versus what's proposed. And so, as I said earlier, you got 1.8 million, budgeted fund balance, deficit budget in 21, 2.9 million in 22, 1.8 million in 23, and 2.3 million, for this year's budget. So what's proposed is $1.6 million. Now, there's things in those budgets that are one-time expenditures, like last year. We put in $400,000 for road and bridge. We did a $100,000 increase for each of the road and bridge to give them more construction money. You can do those one-time things like that, because if we get in a bind, we can always kind of remove that the next year. Sometimes you have capital expenditures, you know, for whatever purpose, and you've got a one-time expenditure, then we can do some of those things, okay? This slide just showed what was proposed last year, $1,675,000. Proposed salaries, 2025 calendar budget. Now, these are all the salaries, that Megan had put in the book, the proposed book. That's with the $1,200 increase. And then, you'll see that I put some arrows there for like the person for the shop, the person for, the elections, that's in there, and, the coordinator, the bail bond coordinator, okay? So I put some arrows in there so you'll see that as they come up. But essentially, these are the salaries that are proposed for this coming year, okay? This is gonna be the tax assessor collectors. Now if you remember, we made a few changes in some of the salaries just in the last little bit, but, I think Megan worked it out to where that $1,200 increase is gonna be.
Margie requested that extra go back to the bookkeeper.
Okay, all right, so they went back and put that back with the bookkeeper. Did you need something? Michelle? That's all right. Duty calls. All right. All right, so that's tax assessor collector's office. County clerk, $1,200 increase across the board. The commissioners with indigent health care. And there's gonna be some budget requests, and we'll talk about those as we kinda go line, budget by budget. And then it's gonna be the, district clerk's office, $1,200 increases. Courthouse, maintenance, $1,200 increases. Elections administrator, in the areas where we added one more employee. And let me talk about that real quick. At some point, you'll see in the letter that Casey's considering retiring in the next couple of years. We got one other full-time employee in there. We need to make sure that our elections has no disruptions in service, somebody that's trained. So she's wanting somebody else so they can learn what needs to be done and make sure that we're up to snuff, not wait till the last minute, and let her be a mentor to whoever or is working in that office with her to take over if she retires, okay? So, bail bond supervision, bail bond supplement, that's from, I think some of these are from the city, there's one there. Indigent defense supplement. So those are just supplements, it's been in the budget, that didn't change. Information technology, $1,200 increase across the board. District courts, on all the, court coordinators, court reporters, $1,200 across the board. District attorney's office, $1,200 across the board. Of course, they've gotten, the law enforcement grant too, that's helping their office on retaining staff and attracting employees there. That's the district attorney's office, continued. Okay. And that's some of that is grants and supplements. I think we have to supplement some of those grants with general fund money.
Yes, there's a match.
Yeah, okay. So we've got cash matches on some of that. JP's offices, $1,200 across the board on all of them. Emergency management, $1,200. Sheriff's Department, $1,200 increase across the board. And you see that's Sheriff's Department. And this is the, jail. It's $1,200 across the board on them. And then Highway Patrol, we got one employee, so the troopers can stay out on the road. We fund a position out there to take care of all their records. And I'll just say this, that, they've come, I think, talking to Sergeant, they're at full staff now, and they're not going to the border as much. So if y'all, and I know I've seen them a whole lot more just in the last few weeks, and, we had a lot of, fatalities and, or, accidents in our area that TxDOT's reported. So, that visible presence out there, with more troopers on the road and doing some traffic enforcement, there's always a byproduct of traffic enforcement that they do for us, and that's increased fines. It's not the goal, but that is a byproduct of the work that they do. So that's why we fund a secretary out there, so they're not in the office doing paperwork all the time, and they can get out there and be on the road. Bail bond, officer, we got, and that's the bail bond coordinator, that's the full-time position that's in there. That was not in the budget last year. We added it, beginning of this year, early in this year, or at the end of last year, I think, and then so we're putting that in the budget, okay? I think that's helping the clerks and coordinate the bonds and all. Bail bond board, we talked about that some at our last bail bond board meeting. The extension office, the $1,200 in the extension agents, supplement. Dogwood Park, $1,200 across the board there. And let's see. Road and Bridge 1, $1,200 across the board. And, I think in 1 and 3, it doesn't have anybody as a title, but, one of those is your mechanic, right, Ken?
Yes.
And, Greg?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Joey's actually shows up as a mechanic. And so there's the mechanic salary. It's the same as what precinct 4 is, okay? And that was moved from the shop, so it's not creating a new position, it's moving it, okay? And there's Road and Bridge 3, $1,200 across the board. Road and Bridge 4, $1,200 across the board. And you see that that's zeroed on the county shop, okay? All right, district.
The SB 22.
Okay, these are the SB 22 or the Senate Bill 22, grants from the state. And she got 275?
250.
250.
Yes, sir.
250,000. The Sheriff's Department got $500,000. And we've got to turn in an audit, before January 1st of 2025 of how we spent that money. I've got an email that I got from the comptroller. I also talked to the comptroller's office and about that, and it's kind of an in-depth audit, so I just want to mention it because the sheriff's here so that we can be working together to make sure that happens, because if not, we will not be funded in the next year. That's by statute. Okay?
It's specifically on how they divide it up, correct?
Well, it's how we use the money.
Yeah, how we
And
divide
to
it.
make sure that we comply with all the grant requirements.
Yes, sir.
And so, okay. But they're asking for quite a bit of information. I was trying to get clarification from the, and make sure that, because anybody on October 1 date is having to turn that in before October 1st. Ours, because we're on the calendar year, we gotta turn in before January 1st, but I wanna make sure I didn't miss a deadline, okay? lose those funds. All right, county clerk, records management, $1,200 increase. There's a bailiff in the security service fund, that's a $1,200 increase for that person. The, that's the, drug forfeiture fund and the DA's drug, forfeiture supplement, okay? General fund revenues, all right, there's the change. What I'm gonna try to do is outline some of the changes in some of the bigger items like the interest income and the sales tax. Just kinda show those in the budget. There's gonna be some increases and probably some decreases. I think you're gonna see some more in the, JP funds and in the court funds as we go along. But, that's the figure that we showed that in the general fund with the tax rate for the general fund. And our overall tax rate is broken down. So we've got, essentially three tax rates. We've got our general fund tax rate, we've got our, debt service tax rate, and our foreign market flood control. So those combined comes out to that 48, something cents, okay? So there's the sales tax, still the same as last year budgeted. And then the interest income, and I wanna mention this because there's a correlation between the inflation that we're seeing now and interest rates. Because it's just like right now, you know, you could have bought a house and had a lot lower interest rates 3 years ago. And but at the same time, to get a loan and borrow the money, the interest rate was low. But also, when you have $28 million in the bank, because you've collected taxes and everything else, or let's say 20 at a time, and you've got a 1% interest rate because of inflation, that correlation is there. Now do you know what the interest rate is? I meant to ask Tara. 5?
I think it's 5.
Around 5%?
I know taxable is 5, and that's where, a good
Okay.
chunk of that is coming from.
That's the one I was because a lot of our money's in tax pool, and the reason it's in a pool is because when you pull it out, there's no penalty, for taking money out, and she has to have liquid assets so she can pay the bills on a monthly basis. If you have CDs or you got T-bills, if you go in and you take that out before the maturity dates, then you're actually gonna be penalized for that. Pool is very convenient, and we're getting a good interest rate off it. So 5% versus 3 or 4 years ago, 1.5%. Okay, so there's what's budgeted as revenue is 1,649,700. What's that last number? 49? Okay, all right. To balance that budget. All right, the expenditures in the general fund, I tried to circle that so you can see the titles. This is the auditor's office. There wasn't much changes in the other expenses. Let's see if I got there. Yeah, okay, so the other expenses and the salaries, you know what the increases was the $1,200, okay? So, essentially the other expenses, trying to make this easy to go through, they did not change, okay? The same with, the treasurer's office, the expenses didn't change. In the tax assessor collector's office, they didn't change. County clerk's office, same other expenses as budgeted last year. In the commissioner's office, it was the same.
Nope. We did add, a cell phone allowance for Kathy.
Well, okay, but that's up in salaries.
Yes, I'm sorry.
But the other expenses, but yes, okay, so that's in there, okay, that was in the request, okay? So, but, on the other expenses though, then that basically stayed the same. I just didn't highlight it with an arrow. This is, the annexes, and, we increased the, supplies, and we also increased the utilities, looking at, trying to make sure that we don't miss something. And of course, utilities are going up on everybody too. So that's a lot of buildings that we're taking care of the utilities out of that. Okay. I think, let me go back, 'cause I think I missed my budget. Hold on. Okay, there's mine. So the other expenses were the same. I didn't highlight it, but our other expenses is the same. Okay. County clerk, commissioners, next one.
Also,
That's it, this is elections.
show.
The other expenses were the same. We pretty well got her up to snuff on the election machines and all, so we didn't have to add that like we did last year. This is, the only thing there is essentially the employee. And then there's one other issue, and do you mind addressing that, Megan? And y'all got a handout, it's in the book, but I'll make you a handout so you wouldn't have to look for it. It should have been laying there with your agenda. Here it is, Commissioner. It's got a picture on there. So if you'll address that, and it's gonna affect two people. It would affect others, but they're already over the limit, so go ahead.
The Department of Labor, it goes into effect January 1. They ruled, that who qualifies for exempt the salary is higher come January 1. So that salary is $58,656, and that will, affect two people that are currently exempt, which is Christina in emergency management and Casey in elections.
So elections and emergency management, everybody else that's in an exempt position is over that amount, okay? Over that 50, let me get my copy. So I make sure it's on the tape. So $58,656
Yes.
per year, or you gotta pay them overtime.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, they'll be exempt.
So
from overtime, yes.
that's stating that Christina and, Casey will be eligible for overtime, correct?
Well, what we did, this is to
If-
try to address this.
If they make what they make right now,
Yes.
they'll earn overtime, correct?
Yes,
That's correct.
yes.
Okay. So what we did is we put in enough overtime to get them to this salary, okay?
Oh, you did?
That way, if the court says, yeah, it's already in there, but it's in the overtime line item. So if the court, because I can tell you, both of these people are gonna work overtime. And I figured up to get to that amount, I think it's 13.5.
13.5, yes, sir.
Yeah, 'cause it already had 1,000 in that one for overtime. So the 13.5 in each of those budgets will get them to this figure, and both, to get that in overtime, they need 8 hours a week. And I can tell you, they're probably gonna get more overtime than that. So if we put that salary at their, to put them at this, the money's already in the budget, it's budgeted. You just gotta take the overtime and move it up to their salary line item, and they stay exempt. And then if they're working, they were out last night, they had a big diesel spill two different incidents last night. And I talked to Christina this morning. They had a major, fatality accident with spilled chemicals, and they also had a chemical plant that had a spill last night, but it was contained. So, I think we're gonna be paying more money than what that requires to just put them at exempt. So that's my recommendation, but that's a court decision.
So to be correct, you're proposing to put them at that minimum number so they won't receive overtime.
So they stay exempt, and if they're working 16 hours, that's gonna be 8 hours extra overtime.
When did this pass?
So,
They did it before.
and then I don't have to worry
There was a different amount.
if they gotta go
July 1.
home, or,
It was
you
this
know,
year, it happened this year.
how am I gonna control that overtime?
So you gonna leave it in overtime, or you gonna move it to permanent?
I would like to put it to their salary, and then they stay exempt,
Then you don't.
and we don't have to worry about any more going over our budget. That's my thinking on the thing, 'cause Casey's always working overtime. Y'all seen her up here late at night and everything else, and on the weekends, getting ready for elections. And just like last night, emergency management coordinator's gonna be out.
13,000 split between the two of them
No, that's in each budget.
on
So is that 13,000?
I was trying to give you a figure, in 8 hours a week, they're there, pretty much.
And it's one position in elections and one position in emergency management.
Yeah, it's actually, it's Casey, it's the administrator and the emergency management coordinator, nobody else.
Casey will be at 45. It was about 13, I think that's what it was. Casey would be $13,056.
We're gonna increase the salary.
And
Okay.
then
I might have another truck on there though.
Christina would be.
I was gonna surplus it on foot. Yes.
And we,
12,540. We just rounded it
If y'all wanna
to
think about it, or-
13,500 to put it over.
we can talk about it
Well, no, it
tomorrow,
would be whatever.
that way we can kinda go on through the budget.
Get
Let's
to-
go on through it.
Is that all right?
Let me back up, but
I think
that's
that's really
gonna
what
raise
you're proposing
their-
to either leave the overtime there or
This year
bring them
should be
to
at
that amount,
46
correct?
with the
Either way.
raise.
Yeah,
It's
well,
just
cause
that I
it's not,
think we-
it's not an even 13,500, that's just what we put
Okay.
in there.
Okay.
But that's what
they
you
got-
asked,
Whatever it
You gotta
is to
get
get
them to
them
that
to that
58.
figure.
for them not to earn overtime, correct?
Well, right now, this year she'll be at 46. What does she have to be at?
Next year, she has to be at 58656.
Right here.
So you have to,
It's that amount right here.
$13,000 piece raise, that's what it basically boils down to.
So,
Well, I mean, the other option is to leave it where it is
and just
and
pay overtime.
reevaluate it in next budget and see how much overtime they've
That's right.
actually earned.
Mhm.
I mean, at the end of next year, they could be making way more than 13,000.
May not, and then you could owe one back, you got.
Oh, I
two
know, I'm
emergency
just,
management.
that's the
Well-
other option.
And
Can
if
we
get
go
a-
on through the budget, we can kinda talk about this some more tomorrow, is that all right?
That's fine. Do we have a calculation of what they have now? As far as
Yeah, it's-
overtime-wise?
Overtime, no.
No.
No,
because
because
Casey
I
doesn't
can
put what she exactly
if
works.
they're
she
exempt, they're
works.
not gonna put in overtime on their time sheet all the time, so. Okay. All right, so let's go on through the budget, we can talk about it tomorrow, is that okay?
Yes.
All right. All right, and this is capital outlay. And all the constables have new vehicles now, so we didn't have to budget for a new vehicle for constables, okay?
Who will be up next, just curious?
I think Doug was last, so it should go back to.
All the other three got one the same year, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so.
I think
But
it'll
I might
be
be
back to
trading
3.
mine, I might be trading mine in.
I don't think about
I think it'd be 3.
No, I don't think that's right.
Yeah, it's an odd number of years, so it's an odd number, yes.
I'm just curious, but I mean, yeah, I know our constable fleet is good.
They're in good shape, I really
Yeah.
might go trade mine in. Mine's got a 4-cylinder, remember, there wasn't nothing available, we took the 4-cylinder, and he ain't happy with it, but we're gonna look at it first, evaluate it, see.
Well, one of the things I saw a long time ago when we started that rotation is Fannie Hutchinson had a piece of junk. I had to go out there and move it, and I thought, how are you even driving that? And so she got the first one, he just went 2, 3, 4, 1. Because Larry Bennett at the time had a pretty decent vehicle. So we just kinda took, that's when the rotation started, but it makes
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
it
it's
keeps
3.
everybody in a pretty new vehicle. Okay. Now, this is,
No, I'm not.
it kinda cut that off down there. This is gonna be our, other expenses. And, we made some changes there. Went from 55,000 on the postage to 60,000. And I think we made that change because Margie's she's got somebody that she's contracting.
No, we're just doing a lot more certified than we were. We're doing a lot more certified than we were.
Oh, okay, all right. And then, let's see, went from 288,000 to 315,000, and that's on the insurance and bonding. The, just $1,000 increase on, unemployment. And this is looking at the trends in the last 3 years and what we spent to date, trying to make sure that we're lining those up with kind of what we're spending. And then, let's see. Central Appraisal District, that went up. And that should be the exact amount that they showed in their budget. Went from $344,320 to $480,329. And professional services, that went from 25, we increased that to 50. Let's see. Contingency, we had 500,000 last year, and that's been reduced to 300,000. The radio towers, rental, that's increasing, so we increased that. And some of the expenditures on the radio towers too, with repeaters and all, some of that stuff is needing to be replaced. So we went ahead and increased that from 60,000 to 80,000.
Also changed the added maintenance to the end of the name of the line item as well. Because I think it's a normal thing now to be buying propane, right, Judge?
Correct, we got
So we can just put it there and I just put / maintenance.
right, fill in the propane tanks, so that way, like when we had the electrical power outages and we stay up and running for sheriff's departments and fire departments and
Water department.
and commissioners. So, all right, and then on, that's just transferred to other funds, and that's, up from 120,000, is that 29?
29 to 176.
Okay, to, 176,000, so.
That increased because the VOCA grant has not had a match in, I believe, 2 years, at least 2 years, and it has a match this coming year.
And it went down also, right? The amount we received.
Not that we received, not that what we're supposed to receive yet, but overall, yeah.
Yeah, overall, it went down.
And that's a grant for the DA's office, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That was
All right.
Bible and both.
Yeah, I've always been.
Yes.
Information technology, no changes in other expenses there. On, collections, the expenses stay the same there. County court, all the expenses stayed the same. County court at law, all the expenses stayed the same on other expenses there. Is that contract services? What's that
District
say?
court.
District court, I'm sorry. District court, I think we had to make some changes.
Yeah, it changed there.
Yeah, we had to make some changes there. A lot of it was probably indigent defense.
It was about 13,000.
Okay, that's just salaries. That's all that is salaries.
No, and others,
The next
there's,
page,
Do what now?
the next slide.
Yeah, it's going to, okay, it's on your page. I had to split it, so
okay,
I couldn't get them both on the same place.
there it is.
There's the changes in the other expenses there. Okay. 1,000 in, travel, that's going to other counties,
For the court reporters.
court reporters. Interpreter, we're having to use interpreters more, so that went from 3,000 to 10,000. And then,
Investigated expense on
yeah,
that
that's
cam.
that's an investigator. If you got a capital murder and the attorneys request an investigator to help them in those cases, then normally the judge is gonna order that they have an investigator to assist them with the case. And you got, mental commitments that the district court and or maybe the county courts are dealing with mostly. That's
We-
3,000 increase from 0.
And we added that line because that's starting to be a more common thing, and it's not appropriate to put it in another place except that.
So it
And that way we can track it.
increased at about 40,000.
Well, we're looking at line item that says mental, commitments.
Oh, yeah.
okay? And then we got, visiting judge, and that's, went up
1,000.
about was it 5,000?
1,000.
1,000.
Oh, that one went up 1,000? Okay. I'm having to look at these numbers on the screen too, I can't see them on my, let's see. Court reporter fees,
Yep.
that's up
5,000.
that was the one I was looking at, that's
Okay.
5,000. The next one is,
Edit jurors is up.
yeah, jurors, and, the state's requiring that we're paying more to jurors now. So, absorbing those costs,
The rest is the same.
yeah. And then, district attorney's office, that's the same on, other expenses. JP one, everything's the same. A lot of people didn't ask for any changes in their budgets. Precinct 2, precinct 3, all those stay the same in the JP's offices, okay? And then court-appointed attorneys, that went up 5,000. And when you're looking at the expenditure side, what the auditor does is essentially, you've got all those expenditure line items that she takes and applies that 90,000 to. So if you're looking, at what actually last year, you can see kind of what the total was that some of those expenditures were, okay? And if you have a capital murder, then your expenditures are gonna, be a lot more too, okay? Any questions on that one before I move on? Yes, sir. Okay. All right, then, 87th District Court, so these are our district courts. Essentially the same, this budget is there.
No, we went up
Well, how did I do?
$27,800
That was on
to make it 100,000 like the other three courts.
Was that a,
court appointed?
Well, we didn't increase it for the current budget year, last year.
okay. All right, I need to go back and change that one.
Yeah, 'cause Megan, what went up?
The first line, court-appointed attorneys.
Okay.
Yeah.
From 72.
And then she
We made it
splits it by what, what it's applied to,
Gotcha.
okay?
We made all four courts 100,000.
Yeah, I apologize, I missed that one. I'll have to
And then
go back and correct that one. And you can see the change there in the, was that 349?
yeah, both of those last two went up 10.
Yeah, okay. So increases by 10,000. Emergency management, we put in 3,000 for, equipment, rental. We wanted to get an ice machine, because they're having to go out to the fires with these firefighters, and that'll take care of a lease back here in emergency management. They've got a lot of water, but they have to go somewhere else to ice it down. So, and then the other one is 10,000 in capital outlay. We've gotta take and do some upgrades to our repeaters and change out some of the repeaters and some antennas that are getting old, and trying to address them maybe one at a time, kinda like the vehicles for the constables, kind of rotate, address one each year. And, we had some stuff that happened during the electrical storm. We just replaced a air conditioner unit out there. It was 91 degrees in there where our repeaters are, and they'll shut down. So we've got to keep that cool. We just got an air conditioner in there, so, just in the last 2 weeks. Let's see. Constable 1, all the expenditures, he didn't request anything changed there. Constable 2, let's see. No change there. Constable 3, Alan requested that we get his gas up to 6,000, the same as the other constables. And so we made that change. Actually, his overall budget went down because he doesn't have the longevity or the step pay. So that basically absorbed that increase in cost.
Well, still positive, about 3,000.
Yeah. Okay, so we recouped a little bit there. On, precinct 4, essentially the same requested. And some people didn't turn in a request, so, but I'd talk to some of them on the phone or in person to just see if they failed it, didn't get my letters. On the sheriff, we got 200,000 in gas and oil. Last year we spent 118,000, the year before is 90-something. 99, and then 83 the year before. What we did is we moved 10,000, he was requesting an increase in, I think that's, is that uniforms or? Yeah, uniform expense. So we just moved 10 from there down to the uniform expense, and that was a wash. On, the pre-employment, mental health and, physicals, the medical and the psychologicals, that's to employ staff. And so, so that could be tracked and make sure it's in one place, then we add a line item, that's $1,000, okay? And then, like I said, on the uniforms, we increased that to 10, and then we, on the other expenses, raised that from 25,000 to 32,000. That's on the sheriff's department side. And then on the county jail, we increased the same thing, the pre-employment, evaluations. And, on building repairs, we increased that 10,000 to 100,000. And now, I wanna come back to the inmate medical and inmate groceries. And so, there was some increases that were estimated in there, like I showed you in the prior deal. And so we can have a discussion on that before we make a change, okay? Just didn't do anything different there. And then on the other expenses, added, 10,000 in there.
Judge, can we say something at this point, or is that tomorrow?
Well, it's kind of tomorrow, I mean, if you wanna say something. I've got some things I'm gonna go back to before we address this.
Okay.
So you might wanna let me finish my deal, and then maybe after that, if that's okay.
I was just gonna speak on building repairs, so if you got something coming up on that.
No, not on that, go ahead.
Okay. The court should know that the way we have changed capital outlay, we've mentioned it before, and what gets capitalized and what doesn't, we're paying for a lot more out of building repairs. I've already put money in building repairs once this year at a salary surplus. That'll happen again before the end of the year. And, basically, the 90,000 that we were budgeted, he's showing a $10,000 increase there, which is appreciated, but I don't think it's sufficient to address what we're gonna spend next year. Now that we're paying for boilers out of, building repairs instead of capital outlay, and we're paying for, other large ticket items out of building repairs instead of capital outlay, the money's gotta come from somewhere. So if you're not gonna fund capital outlay extra to, absorb that, then we're gonna need to fund building repairs, substantially extra in order to, account for those things. We project we're gonna lose probably $70,000 to $80,000 worth of air conditioners next year. Now, those do come out of capital outlay,
And we've been replacing some of them.
and well, there's a lot more to
How many more do
replace.
you have?
We got like 20-something air conditioners. And we've got a boiler. We replaced one last year, but we told the court at the time we replaced it, we've got another one that we're gonna try to make it to the next budget year with, but it's gonna need to be replaced.
Example, the boilers are 20,000 a shot. Just this morning, I ordered a $6,000 circulator, for it that's outside the boiler itself, but eventually that boiler's gonna go as well.
And again, that comes out of building repairs as well. So building repairs, given the age of the jail, building repairs is not going nearly as far as it did during the first year of even just our term.
Like buying a new vehicle, the warranty's expired.
But any of the big ticket items, we can take out of capital outlay.
Well, we haven't in the past. That's why I'm saying,
What I'm talking about, like replacing air conditioners,
well, A boiler costs $20,000.
No, same thing with the
So did
boiler.
an air conditioner.
Well, we didn't take the boilers out of,
The boiler came out of building repairs, the air conditioner comes out of capital outlay. And I'm not suggesting that,
What's the?
we don't leave the auditor making the choice about where it comes from. I just wanna make sure that there's sufficient funding in the
Where
place
it
we're
was
gonna
at.
take it out of.
Well, if it's at 100,000, Nick, what was you thinking it would need to be?
I believe I put in for 150 on that line, just to try to be on the safe side.
I think
And that's in, his requests are in your book.
Okay.
All the requests that were turned in are in the book. And they'll be in the supplemental book.
Okay.
What did I say whenever? Cause that sounds
Okay.
like it would be.
That's in the blue book.
Replacing the entire thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't give you an answer
And
on
the boiler is as big as from you to the judge.
it's not like
that. Yeah, you asked for one.
Well, I mean, I don't think the court's hesitated on taking capital outlay
No.
and using that for big ticket items like boilers, air conditioners.
Sure.
I don't see a problem with that.
Well, like I said, I
That's
just
not
wanted the
something
court
you
to
can
make
plan
sure
for.
and fund it somewhere, Judge, that way there wasn't any issue when something like that happened, because we don't wanna put the county in a bind.
Yeah, we don't wanna show up next year needing something that's an item of inspection that'll shut the jail down and really put the county in a bind. We just wanna kinda get the word out there.
Okay.
The other thing was, I couldn't read capital outlay when you went through it a while ago, capital outlay vehicles for the sheriff.
All of them the same.
All of it was the
It
same.
was, yeah, it was 300
Okay.
for
The
5.
problem that,
Oh.
that we have with that is now vehicles are all over $50,000 each unit, so in order for us to get 5 and equip them, then we need additional monies in order to be able to equip them.
No, there's 300 and 50,000 in there, or
Yes, sir.
300?
300.
Because it was 250,000 for the vehicles and 50,000 we added,
Right, so 10,000 to
The-
equip.
quick,
So
equip
did
them.
you add another 10,000 to equip? 10,000 for vehicles, make it 350?
No, it's 300. It was 300.
Okay,
So what we were gonna do was ask for 350 in that line so that we could not have to wait 6 months to try to equip them, so we could get enough salary surplus accrual in order to be able to do it.
let's talk about that tomorrow.
All right.
Okay, but at least everybody has heard it, so now that we kind of mill it over till we get to tomorrow. Okay. And, let's see, on the highway patrol, I talked to Sergeant, they didn't ask for anything else on other expenses. The salary increase is only expense, added to that budget. On, this is the personal bond office, and you've got the extra person that's in there that now is full-time employee, and then, we increased the, furniture and equipment to what was requested to $1,000 from $650, okay? And then on the extension service, they didn't request anything extra there, so other expenses stayed the same. On, Dogwood Park, all those expenditures stayed the same on other expenses. We got the salary increase in there in the salaries. Let's see, indigent, healthcare, all that stayed the same. Okay. And, let's see. County services, on county services, that's all of our business partners, a lot of that is, and none of those changed except for, we added, you know, the lease we had for the Green Bay for the election for our building out there. That's that $1,200 that we budgeted to pay the lease on setting that building out there on their property. And we're getting, the electricity, they let us hook into their electrical for free, right, Commissioner? Okay.
Hey, Judge, can we go back to the park real quick?
Yes, sir.
In the past couple budgets, there was some extra money in there for the roads out there. Was that, I don't see it in here, don't see.
It's in your budget.
It's in his budget?
Yeah, we moved it several years ago.
Okay.
It's in your budget.
Okay,
Yeah.
precinct 4, okay.
Okay.
I just didn't see it in your.
Because I think it was actually a separate department. It wasn't even actually in that one.
Yeah, it's under.
And so, several years ago,
It's under-
we
okay.
moved it to yours.
It's in there on the
Yeah.
Dogwood Park.
Yeah, a long time ago, we actually had it separated, because I was actually supervising the park back,
Right.
years ago, and we'd put like road construction in there to do a mile of road every year, something,
Right.
stuff like that. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
But I didn't see that in here, so it looked like
Yeah.
it stayed the same. Okay. Where were we at? Let's see. On county services, we didn't make any changes there. Just to mention something, there is a request. There is a request on Meals on Wheels, and I went down and talked to Ruby at Meals on Wheels. She sent me a letter, the first letter in your budget, the supplemental book for them talks about, needing one air conditioner. So I went down there to talk to her, and we found out she needs 3 air conditioners. Her walk-in cooler was out, and then 2 of her ovens are out, and she's having trouble with her vehicles, okay? So I went down there to see about dressing an air conditioner, but we talked about her funding and how she's funded. The COG does a lot of funding for them, okay? Now, I talked to Judge Hale over in Rush County, because it's Tri-County, so I talked to Judge Hale over there, and just with the air conditioner units, what I was gonna see about addressing, splitting the cost between us, because they service Cherokee County, Rush County, Anderson County, and Frankston. So, when she told me all this, I said, well, look, I need some figures. So, I said, I need some real figures about what it's gonna cost, and of course, with some of the sheriff's department, you know, placing air conditioners, I had a ballpark, but I needed some real quotes. And so she put all that together in an Excel spreadsheet, and then I called David Cleveland at the COG. I said, she's got all these problems, and they've got to be able to deliver meals, and it shows how many meals, thousands of meals that they deliver with all 3 counties. And so, I said, David, see what y'all can do, and then I'll talk to Judge Hale and Judge Davis in Cherokee County and see what we can do. Well, he called me back, and he just called Ruby, and they funded the air conditioners, all 3 of them. They funded the walk-in cooler, and that's not approved yet, but that's what he said, that is budgeted, and they have the funds to do that. Okay, the walk-in cooler, the ovens, and she's requested 1 vehicle, and, $91,000. So that, couple phone calls, she got $91,000 in all that she needed, so that was a good thing.
We did give them $100,000 last year, so.
Oh, that was ARPA money or something? Yeah, okay.
We give them $100,000 out of our.
All right, so she got those things pretty much funded. She needs 2 hatchback vehicles, she's got 1 request into the COG. The 2 trucks that she has, I had asked somebody to look, both of them are Chevrolets, to see what it would cost to replace 1 vehicle and take the bed off of it, their old truck, and put it on there. Well, they quit making the truck that bed fits on in 2016. So basically, we can't buy a truck and put one of their beds on. So that's why she kinda went to the hatchback. And one of them would be used probably most all the time in Anderson County. And so, at least most of the time. So during the budget process, I'd like for us to at least think about either using a little ARPA money or something, maybe we can split it between the 3 counties, I can make a phone call. But I wanted to see what y'all thought before I started calling other judges, okay? Because they're in the budget process too. So I found out one of those hatchbacks is around about $26,000, okay? 26 to 30. For a brand, yeah, actually, she had priced some that were used, like 2022s with some mileage on them. I made some phone calls and I found out I could get a brand new one for about 26,000, okay? We just have to quote it.
Right.
Okay, so something for y'all to think about as we go forward tomorrow, okay? All right. But it made me happy that David called and got $91,000. She's a happy camper. All right.
We actually discussed it on last Thursday.
Oh, okay. The Veteran Service Office, no changes in expenditures there. And then, of course, the Expo Center, there's just a part-time, or part of a salary in there. All right, let's see, Road and Bridge 1, no changes, like I said earlier, that 100,000 was added last year, and it's still in there, no change on the road construction there. On precinct 1, all the other expenses the same. And then, the other expenses in precinct 2, those are some of those, the funds that were in the shop, that were other expenses that we moved to precinct 2, okay?
Yes, sir, those
Because I
will be,
figured you're gonna have to buy some tools and maybe some equipment for doing repairs.
It was
okay?
$17,000.
and
About
utilities.
17?
17,764.
Okay,
What?
Is that for the utilities and everything too, or are they
No,
gonna
the
come
utilities
from?
is paid out of, out of county courthouse budget.
Okay,
I think I pay for the utilities out of our courthouse budget.
okay.
Okay. All right.
So was there some money in that left over or no?
17,000 was the
Had to
other
be more than that.
expenses.
Okay, now,
There
the
was
other
two.
employee, 'cause Chad
Yeah,
went
not- I
to the
didn't-
park, okay? We're
Wow.
adding that employee in elections, so that negated us doing anything. That basically was a wash. That one position was eliminated, and that took care of the new position,
John got one and then we moved one to election.
That's what he's saying, yeah.
okay? And that way, we didn't up the
Right,
budget, up the deficit, okay? All right, and so that one's precinct, this is precinct 3, I think, yeah.
Two. Oh, no,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
right.
I've changed pages, it's okay. So essentially, that was left the same. And then precinct 4, all the other expenses were left the same. Anything in those salary line items essentially was just the raises, okay?
And I do see the Dogwood Park, it's on, in a separate deal. I forgot we did that.
Yeah, oh, okay, all right, okay. And then in, Road and Bridge, shop, you just see that went to 0, okay? All zeros.
Yeah, I guess so, I mean, I ain't looked at it.
All right, and this is the Farmer Market, lateral road fund. And if you look, you'll see that there was more fund balance last year when we were doing the budget than there is this year, about half, okay? So that's why that's not quite the same. So you got, overall went, let's see. But the taxes went up. Taxes went up to kinda offset that, okay?
Judge,
Yeah.
hang on. I budgeted all of fund balance except for $6,800,
Okay,
just to let y'all know.
all right. So from a revenue standpoint, we had an increase from 534,482 to 555,685 due to that increase in appraised values at 213,000 or so.
That should be split on the
Okay.
same level, right?
I didn't do anything to the expenditures because of the way the fund balance was, so it actually stayed the same.
And I've got those in here, so I'm fixing to show you that, but I wanna make sure,
You didn't get it.
do y'all need to look at this more, or you pretty well on that?
Because the fund balance is 6850 was
Okay,
less,
all right.
I can split 6850 for me, but not much.
Here's, so this is precinct 1. Essentially Megan the budgets are split the same. 181,545 for Road and Bridge 1, 107,009 for Road and Bridge 2, 186,809 for precinct 3, essentially the same as last year. And then 129,636 for Road and Bridge precinct 4.
How does that leave that fund looking, Megan?
There's a projected ending fund balance next year of $6,850.
So
So,
basically,
I mean,
most all of
before
it
we
is
put in
budget.
the tax rate, before we put in the new tax rate, because that tax rate actually went up just a little bit. Before I put that in, I was gonna have to decrease everybody's budget with what was in there, but then I put the tax rate in and that increased the revenue, so I could leave it the
But
same.
it held its own.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Cause remember last year we had to decrease it, cause the tax rate had to drop.
Exactly.
All right, these are gonna be special funds. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time if y'all stop me if you get a question, but I just wanted to run through them so they're all where the citizens can see them if they're watching this on YouTube.
And we budget all the fund balance on these.
Okay, it's split between indigent healthcare and the commissioner's budget. We went over that.
It's 50/50.
Yeah, I know it's 50/50. I thought there was one come up right after ours, I didn't see it. Okay.
But it's got the cell phone in there, and it's got the $1,200 increase.
Okay.
Is that what you
I
want?
put the cell phone in the commissioner's budget, the entire cell phone.
Okay.
I put the cell phone, the entire cell phone in the commissioner's
And-
budget. I didn't
Okay,
put that.
that's
'cause-
good.
And while we're talking about cell phones, so I don't forget,
Gotcha.
Casey has requested 2 cell phones, one for her and one for Dee. In the Secretary of State's office, they had changed it, but they kinda did, after they changed the rule, they kinda backed up a little bit because some of the counties did not have the resources. They were requiring that you gotta do the multi-factor authentication. In other words, when you're doing something with emails and everything with the Secretary of State, that they were not gonna let you use the emails anymore. Because they got something sent to them, and it caused them problems, so they wanted to make sure that it was done through a text. But they probably at some point may get to that point, and Casey told me that they're doing a whole lot more with Secretary of State's office, with election judges on cell phones, and because of open records requests that people are doing now for elections, she wanted to make sure, like, I know the sheriff's department has county phones, so that's what she's wanting to do. And so, that's not in there yet, okay, 'cause we'd already gotten all these numbers together, and this happened just in the last week or so, okay? So that she can take care of her business, so we may, if y'all will help me remember, we need to look at cell phone for the elections, okay?
Yes.
All right, and that's in the book, in the supplemental book. Okay, disaster relief, this was, what the court had some funds in there in case, there were things that needed to be the emergency management needed to go get during a fire or major fires and things like that, just to let them go get water or whatever they needed. So that's the revenue, and you got one slide for revenue, one slide for expenditures. This hotel occupancy tax and $746,589 is, the revenue side, the total. And then essentially the same for the expenditure side, okay? County cemetery, we've got a couple of cemeteries that we have to supervise by, basically, by statute. And used to, there was some royalties that were coming in, I think, oil field royalties, they weren't very much, but even that's kinda gone away, okay?
Well, this was actually, Judge, and I think you actually told me about it last year, it was.
I know Ms. Freeman
it was
used to
an
come see me
account-
on this.
It was some account at a bank, and it had Anderson County's name on it, but it was a cemetery account, and then I guess it hadn't been touched in so long, so then they sent the treasurer a check, so we put it in the general,
Okay.
but I think you told me a name, or you told me a lawyer's name that,
Well, Danny Dean set up one, and that
Yeah.
was for,
but so I don't know.
Zelma Freeman used to come see me about this,
Freeman,
because the intent of those funds was to just keep the
Yeah.
cemetery mowed.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I mean,
And it was put
I
under
really
the
don't know the
responsibility of
background
the
on
county
this money.
judge,
yeah,
you know, when they set that account up, and that was years ago.
Where's that at?
That's what I was
the money has been sent
I'm,
Where's the cemetery?
it's
on
up on 315.
315, right there.
Cause I've got one on me.
Is it Elmwood,
Yeah.
the Elmwood Cemetery? Okay.
I don't know who's most of it, I don't hardly know.
I went out there one time, a long time.
But it's,
Zelman.
Zelma Freeman.
one of them star cemeteries down there where Oscar Star is.
Yeah, till she passed away.
It's a county name.
So
So they called me.
is that what
and
this
told me
money's
to
for?
fix it
Okay.
the other day.
Mark's gotta put this in a minute, so I'm trying to be courteous to him here. So, what is
this money for? Alright, 'cause this is way before me.
all this is to maintain that cemetery, to mow it.
Which
It's
one?
only 460.
And it's my, they put it, when they set it up, luckily me, it's for the county judge to get somebody to go out there and mow it.
Okay.
And that's all that's for.
Okay.
And there was a guy that was mowing it back a long time ago when I was here before,
That won't hardly
and
pay
that
them more
just
one
paid
time.
him, that's a, no, that's not now.
Like, I've got the one there where Oscar Star is, they're off of 142.
Mhm.
And it's in the county, Anderson County's name, Anderson County Cemetery, it was dedicated cemetery years ago. They called me here a few months ago about the fence. They said the trees fell on the fence, and they needed the fence repaired, the whole bit. So Kathy pulled it, and it is Anderson County's cemetery. It's owned by Anderson County. I've never mowed it, never seen, I don't know who does it. So,
I wasn't aware of that one, this one was the only one that I knew about.
well, that one's on 142,
So if it might have happened after I left
you know.
the first time, so.
We'll address that though later with something they give us a fit over, I guess.
Okay. There's not much fun, you're not gonna get much mowing for that.
No, one time.
Yeah, okay. And of course, that's the expenditure side. Court facilities fees, this is a special fund, so, just for facilities and, that's the revenue side, and there's the expenditure side, $73,254. Rural law enforcement grant, this is our Senate Bill 22 for the district attorney's office and the sheriff's office. And so this is the revenue for both of them, $275 for the, district attorney and $500,000 for the sheriff's department. And at the conference, that was something that was talked about, and, Senator Nichols was one of our speakers, and he was talking about that, you know, that's in a funded area of their budget where, like TxDOT and some of the others, where that should not go away. Like he said, they didn't want to defund the police, so. All right. And this is the, district attorney's expenditure side, and, then this is the sheriff's department expenditure side. And we did 6, jailers, 1 transport officer, and 1 animal control officer, for special services. Okay. Veteran Service Office, these are, just donations, I believe. Yeah, those are donations, or the revenue on this. And then there's the expenditure side, about just over 4,000, in supplies, and then 4,036, they got about $8,000 in there on the, other expenses. Language access, this is a newer one, right, Megan?
Yes.
Okay.
Interpreters.
And, this comes from a court cost, and that way it's available for the courts to use for interpreters. Family Protective Services Special Fund, again, most of these are all fees from court cost that the legislature's put in place. $8,000 there. And does some of this go, I was trying to remember, it doesn't go to Child Welfare Board, does it?
No, sir.
Okay. Law library, we've got computers that are set up for the law library now. Everything's pretty much online. A lot of the bar has their own computers that takes care of that, but we do that for the public also. Let's see, revenues on essentially those all are budgeted what we have in the fund. Child abuse prevention, and again, a court cost, fees of office. The clerks, the district and county clerk, and then the JP clerks, from court cost, collect a lot of these court cost fees. Justice of the Peace, is this their technology? Let's see. This is from Truancy. These are split up. between the 4 precincts evenly. Believe that's right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. 10,917 each. Okay. Child Welfare Board, and we've got, some new people working with us on that, and, they're gonna try to work through their budget. I did have a call, and there may be somebody that's gonna donate some funds to them for some special things, so, we do have a line item for donations, but those will be unanticipated revenues that we could budget, that they could use during the budget year, okay? Records Archive, oh, let me back up, I clicked one too many times. So this is their budget, like I said, everything stayed the same. We'll see what, how they need it, maybe some changes for next year. Records Archive, this is a court cost. This is what Mark and Teresa use on, some of these funds, one's for the county clerk, some of them for the district clerk. But this is special revenue fund, and this one's for the county clerk to have expenditures, for records management. Records management for the district clerk, about $17,958 on the revenue side, and then Megan's split the revenues up essentially, pretty much like the budget was last year, with an increase there on capital outlay. Records management and preservation for the county clerk, $79,989 this year. It was a little higher than that last year on the transfers, and the total budget's on the revenues is $153,989 compared to $178 from last year. And then the budgeted according to essentially the same, except maybe there's an increase to one line. I didn't note any of those by fund, but that's pretty much a dedicated fund anyway. The court doesn't actually take care of that. Court reporter services, and this is some fees of office also. Total revenues $53,015, and of course that's balanced over on this side. It's just for court reporter fees. Yeah. The DARE program, this is just the balance left over in the DARE program. It's $7,469 on the revenue side, and then Megan has budgeted those expenditures for next year. Records management, preservation, miscellaneous, court costs, special fund, and we've got a total of, with the transfers from other funds, $124,217 on the revenues. Expenditures, just split between the different line items. There's a note there, Megan, what was I think that's the same notice from last year, was it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. I didn't remember us changing anything on that.
No.
Security service fee, that's the one bailiff. Then they've got some other expenses, but the revenue side comes from other funds out of the general fund that are transferred in. We didn't do any changes to that budget except for, let's see. Went from 2,000 to 5,000 on the capital outlay, and then went from 10,266 to 3,312. Those two line items changed. Okay. And there's some other requests, but we can, in the interest of time, I'm gonna move on. We can talk about that like we did the other stuff tomorrow. Justice Court building security. And this is a special fund from the justice courts. budgeted $27,539. And I think I got that right. No, $27,789, looked at the wrong line item. And those are the expenditures there, one change. Not much in the contingency. Historical Commission, last year, we talked to David Franklin, and we added, we could do 2 markers that I don't think he had but $200 last year. So we increased that, and that stayed the same this year.
Now, he did 2 markers just for this year already.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Just approved the Matson Lake and the other one he had for,
Okay.
Elkhart.
Okay. And this is, that's, okay. Pretrial diversion, this is, from collections from the district attorney's office on their pretrial diversion program that can only be used for funding that program in the DA's office. Usually that's gonna be, right now those funds are down some. I think COVID and some of the other things affected that. Let's see, the expenditures are budgeted at $41,232.
Picking up.
Yeah, we're doing, actually doing a lot of misdemeanors. They're doing some pretrial diversion in, and so on some of the cases, they're using that strategy. County and District Court, check fund. And there's $6,106 in revenue total in that fund. And, that's what's budgeted. I can put those in about 3 different line items. Other expenses, furniture and equipment, capital outlay. Okay. Court records preservation, again, a court cost. This one is for, well, let me go to the next one. The total in that fund is $43,984. And the expenditures, and this is for, is this one for the district clerk? Mark, is this for the district clerk, or you? Do you know on this one?
I think it's
both?
because
Okay.
both collect it.
Okay, so y'all both collect this one, all right. District Clerk Tech Fund, she's budgeted on the revenue side, $60,741. And then on the expenditures, they're split between a number of line items, but $60,741. And I think the biggest line item is capital outlay. Child safety, this is, from a court cost.
No, it's collected in the tax office.
Oh, it is?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Is it, some of the jury donation?
No, this is $1.50. Y'all approve it every year. It's $1.50. I think that's the max that we can collect.
Oh, okay.
I think it's auto registration, right?
Margie left, but I remember last year we had that discussion.
Huh?
I remember this discussion now, because Margie had told us we have to decide on that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I remember now. Okay. It's been a while. But this fund is what, Holly uses over there for the extension office on doing, car seats. And I think we do some for the crisis center too, for car seats. Is that right?
No, we just send the money to the crisis center.
Okay, all right. Indigent defense, and this has gone, way down. It's, we're showing last year $201,236. This year it's $17,510.
We had to transfer the money out to pay for the indigent defense, attorneys last year. We were running short in the general fund.
Okay.
So that took a big chunk out of it.
Yeah, this one's being depleted, so.
Yes.
Okay. But she has budgeted $17,510 for that. Guardianships, this is, $57,889 is the transfers. We got budgeted $62,000. $389. And same in expenditures, $62,389. EdCog appropriations, this is some 911 funding. It's, $398,300. And the COG is trying to, do some things to, enhance the 911, so that's what that's for. D8, drug forfeiture fund, and got a balance. It was $103,012 last year. It's $30,488 this year on the revenues and expenditures, and that's split between several. And that's kind of a dedicated fund there. Sheriff's forfeiture fund, was $31,487 last year, $24,274 this year. Okay. Getting closer to the end, just to let y'all know. All right, on the sheriff's forfeiture fund, the expenditures is $24,474. These are the DA's federal funds, and it's gone down from $28,343 to $18,343. Okay, that was the revenues. Did I miss one figure on that? Yeah, there was a fund balance, so it's $21,343 is actually the total revenue. And expenditures, those are budgeted between two line items, other and capital outlay. Permanent improvement fund, that we don't have a major project right now that we're doing, so it's budgeted $500,000, so 500,002, and then the total is from interest and all is $550,002. Okay. And then this is the budgeted expenditures. 550, the same amount, 550,000. Debt service to interest and sinking. We're defeasing the Civic Center COs, so those are taken out. What's coming from tax revenue and the debts with the debt service tax rate generates $1,665,011 all total. I think, did we transfer some from fund balance? Isn't that what we did? Megan?
No, I put some in the,
We had interest income.
I put some in the contingency, in the expenditures like last year, like the current year we're in.
Okay, all right. But we got a total of $2,109,100. Insurance trust, this is a fund balance essentially $89,506. If something changed a little bit on our insurance program, then we got some fund balance to help us with that. We may not know that till after we set the budget, so.
I have a call
So
in.
that gives us a little bit of buffer, do what?
I have a call in to see if we'll get them before the 26th.
Okay. All right,
Hopefully we do.
okay. That was it on that. Now, let's go to, all right, let's we talked about the deficits earlier, so let's talk about maybe a solution, okay? All right, this is what we talked about on some of the deficits, but on the groceries and the meals, those are both contract services, okay? And, I thought it was less than this, I thought it was around 1.7 million, based on some of our earlier discussions. But Megan put this Excel together, and then I put this together to kind of talk about the contract services. And this is a little bit easier to look at than trying to figure it out, and do the math on that Excel spreadsheet, so everybody can understand it. So, on the contract medical for 2024, this calendar year, then our contract runs from September last year to September of this year, okay? So, January 1st of 2024, we couldn't go back and do anything with the contract from last year. But for this year, January 1, 2024, the remainder of that contract for the first 9 months through September is approximately, these are close numbers, $577,000, okay? And then for the remainder, for the new contract for the rest of 2024, when we renew it, it'll start October 1, and of course, it'll go through, September of next year. All right, but just figuring for 2024, the last 3 months, it's approximately $225,000, and that's using, for next year, they're requesting $900,000, so we're trying to work with those numbers, okay? So that, for the medical, just for this year, is approximately $802,000. And remember, that contract went up when we renewed it last year.
But that's just for contract medical, right?
That's contract medical,
But
and
we
that's
still
for
have,
just 2024.
yes,
And
sir.
how much did it go up last year?
Well,
It went
that's why Nick's requested $900,000.
So it's gonna go up this year.
We actually just got an email that,
Oh, you
I
did?
was just fixing to say, I just
Oh.
emailed out the correct numbers.
yeah, we got it
Okay.
right before lunch.
I asked for 900,000, I think we can come in a little bit below that.
Okay,
It actually comes in, the base is actually 805,072 instead of 802.
so pretty close.
But starting October 1st, it actually increases to $876,458 because they added a position in order to be able to pass medications the way it needs to be passed. 'Cause that's-
So that'll be going
that's
into
the job we want them to do with that.
So that contract will be renewal going in to 24 to 25.
Yes,
Okay.
so that starts October 1st. Why they split it up, had part of it start September 10th and the other part started October 1st.
Okay,
I suspect that's because they wanted time to be able to find a person to put in that position.
okay,
Now, the other thing I wanna bring to the court's attention is, in that line, that is not only the contract, because the county is also responsible for certain purchases of medical equipment under a certain amount, and medical gas and things like that, that is our responsibility. So I always put about 10% in there to cover those expenses. And, you know, at this point, if we're gonna be at, 876,000, probably 890 will cover those expenses, that's not 10%, but 900,000 will do it comfortably.
well, and that's what we were using to kind of estimate things.
The numbers that I
900,000.
gave you, I added about $1,000 a month, give or take, because I could see what was coming out of that. So the estimate included that cushion there, I think.
Okay, because we knew that you'd said that it was going up.
Well, and they talked about needing an EKG machine, and that's our responsibility as
Okay.
well, so, you know, those types of things also come out of that fund.
Okay,
So,
all right, so now, we're just talking about 2024, so let me kind of finish 2024, okay? Because I had to figure, from her Excel, I had to kind of put this together and at least have a picture. And so, let's go to for 2024 on the food service contract, okay? For the first 5 months, because that one, is from like, June 1 through May 31st. So, we can't look back past January first, but looking at this budget year, for the first 5 months, it's an estimate of 171,321. And then for the new contract, and we've already done that one, right? Correct? We did that,
The thing about it,
and we knew it was gonna be an increase.
yeah, the thing about that, Judge, is we can always count on about an 8 to 10% increase in the current budget climate, but we can never count on it only being that, because their contract allows them to take the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, and raise their, prices at any time with 30 days notice.
Okay.
So.
And I remember that, we talked about that
And
today.
it's also based on ADP, so there's some
Yeah.
there's some average daily population in the jail, so
Okay,
the cost of feeding more inmates changes.
okay, and I understand that, so, yeah.
Yeah, I was just making sure.
But I'm trying to get us some ballpark numbers
Sure.
to work with. Okay, so the first 5 months of this year, 171,321, and then to estimate the total for the next 7 months, just for this year, for the contract that'll go into next year till May, then it's 297,000 to get us through December 31st. So a total of $468,000 for 12 months for the meals, okay, so essentially for this budget year, that's $1,270,000 just for medical and meals, and that's a lot of money. So I think we need, at least I wanted a snapshot of what we're looking at there, okay? So next, let's look at 25. All right, and that's a contract also. So the contract medical, and all we can do is estimate what the first 9 months are, because we don't know what the contract's gonna be after that. But we know it's probably gonna go up,
They
okay?
give themselves a 5% increase every year anyway.
Right, so I'm just trying to go with what we have a better grasp on right now, okay? So 675,000 for the first 9 months, okay? All right, and then on the, contract meals, the first 5 months of 2025, the estimate's 212,143. All right, if you add those two together, that's $887,143 just for the first portion of 2025, okay? All right, so if you take the medical in 2024 and the meals in 2024, that 1,270,000, and then total the medical and meals for 2025 that we're estimating, 887,143, that are contracts, then that's 2,157,143, okay? So $2,157,143. All right, now, this is the thing. Both of those are contracts. Those are the only real contracts of any substance that we have. And this is, and so, just as the budget officer trying to look at, to make sure we can, we one, deal with our deficit and at the same time protect our funds, then this is what we have in ARPA right now, is 2,259,109. Now, there's other that's already dedicated to some things the court's committed to, but that's what the balance is of our ARPA right now. If we don't have it under contract by December the 31st, we are gonna lose those funds. If we were able to take that money and pay for, and dedicate those in the budget to pay down the deficit, because it's to help us recoup all of our expenses that we've had through COVID and after, if we take and dedicate those funds to that, then we return 2.1 million that I was just showing you. Let me go back one. We return that back to the general fund. It stays in the general fund, and it's a deficit.
But it's under contract.
It's under contract, and we don't lose that $2,200,000. So we protected it. We've reduced our deficit by over $2 million in both budget years. So I'm saying, let's take part of it and pay down the deficit this year, somewhere around 900,000 to 1 million dollars. We can do it with the 900,000 in the meals and the rest of it the medical, and then take the rest of it out of meals, okay? Whatever that balance is. And then take and dedicate the other to this right here. The $887,000 for next year's budget. So we reduce the deficit. Remember I showed you 1.6 million? That cut it in half. And we return those monies that are property taxes and sales tax now back to the budget to reduce that deficit. And then we protected those ARPA funds, and they're dedicated. And I'm trying to find a way. We've got to put that under contract and make sure we don't lose those funds. And I think from a finance standpoint, that all we're doing is putting that money back into the general fund balance. So it's not going anywhere. So that was something that I wanted to make sure that we at least looked at. We got to look at that during the budget, because we only got, 5 months?
You gotta get it under contract.
And we got to get it under contract. And at the conference, one of the presenters was talking about this, and we had a room full of judges and commissioners. And one of the things Megan had done was researching what obligated mean, and she's reported that to us already, but it's worth mentioning again. At the conference, they said something about obligated. Well, Nathan Craddock he's the auditor in Tom Green County, and he's actually working with the comptroller's office on some of this stuff for the taxes and everything. He's very knowledgeable. So one of the things that I asked a question of was, because they weren't talking like the first presenter was not talking about obligated. I don't know that he had found out what the definition was, the updated definition was, like Megan did. And so I raised my hand. I said, look, our auditor has done in-depth looking into this, and obligated means under contract. And I said, now, if there's something different, then I'd sure like to know about it, but to be safe, we need to have it under contract. And I had commissioners sitting around me from other counties that saying, our auditor found out the same thing. It's under contract. That's what that obligated means. So that's our safe place. We don't lose $2.2 million.
Or get it under contract.
Right.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think that could be a great possibility, but I also, in my mind, I knew that this was gonna come up, and I knew that we were gonna be, that window was narrowing down, and we had 5 months or less to make a decision, and I figured that we could, even possibly use just 2 other options, if need to be spent. You look at some of the things that is currently needed, and if some of the people could go ahead and get it, the elected officials, some of the departments or something, or even, I'll use myself, for instance, Road and Bridge. If we needed extra equipment or something, we could try to go and spend a certain amount, come back to the court. They could take it out of those, because it will be spent by 2025. And then also, yes. Then also, if we needed to, but we hadn't came over the hurdle with raises yet, but if we needed to give the employees a second stipend, cost of living adjustment or something, those are the kind of aspects my mind was at with this.
Well, and I didn't realize that, we had 2.2 million. I was at least estimating 1.7, okay? Because that's some of the first numbers we looked at are like 1.8. But then, Lindsay went through and did it for Megan to find out exactly what's obligated, what's not. Okay, so this is what you come up with. This is the other part of that. I would like to see us take $250,000. This would be a way to do it. If we use that for inmate medical and groceries, and if we don't use the whole amount, that's fine. If y'all want to do something else with some of it, but the bulk of it, I'd like to see us pay down the debt, and that's a way to get it under contract. But I would like for us to at least take if we took 250,000 out of inmate medical and transfer it over to a line item to pay 250,000 on the retirement system, we're starting to make some kind of effort to pay the retirement system down. We've got to make an effort. That's $7 million or more. And our employees that are fairly new here will not have a retirement system if we don't do something. And I just think we didn't get to do anything last year because the deficit was a lot more. I would like for us to take 250,000 at least. I'd rather do $500,000, but I just want us to show that we're making an effort to put a dent in that $7 million deficit, okay? To protect the retiree system. So, and I'm not saying let's make a decision right now. I'm saying,
Yes.
I want y'all to think about this. This is a way to protect our funds, pay down the deficit, which is financially responsible. We've got a pretty good budget here, at least a good start. And there's a few things that we need to talk about, like, you know, the overtime and those kind of things for those two positions and some other stuff. So, this is I don't think I had another slide behind that. Let me look. No, that was it. Okay, so, that's kind of the proposed budget. I filed it with Mark right before lunch. And so, we need to take tomorrow, and it's on there to take and do action to set the elected officials' salary, okay?
Here's the proposed calendar.
Yeah, and it's in the front of your supplemental book, okay?
In the boy.
So that we can take and get everything advertised. Now, I was gonna see if y'all wanted, we can always set another agenda like we did last year, maybe on the 19th or the 20th, but, we have the workshop tomorrow. We can have a workshop on the 12th after we get through with our regular meeting. Just have it either afternoon or, you know, depending on what time it is. Just have a recess and come back after our recess for lunch. And then, that would be the 12th. And those dates, I believe, are in the schedule.
Yes.
If you want us tentatively, we could say 19th or 20th. That still gives us any days to be prepared to go in and do our hearing on the, tax rate and the budget and approve all that on the 26th. And then Margie can get her tax statements out. And Tommy and Margie can get the tax statements out in a timely fashion.
If not, it goes back to last year's budget.
No. Then we could, do it on the first one in September, but it has to be a regular meeting. Cannot be special.
Yeah, it has to be a regular meeting.
So if the only pressing action the court will have to take is tomorrow for the elected official salaries, if y'all do not, I think I already said this, I feel like I said it last year. If y'all don't, vote on elected official salaries tomorrow, you have to vote on it by on the 12th.
On the 12th.
Because the way everything has to be in the paper and everything, then, that would push us back to the first meeting in September. And that's the last day we can, adopt.
Adopt the budget.
But
the tax
Tax rate.
The tax rate.
But we could do it tomorrow, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's on the agenda.
Official.
But
Yeah,
if
for the elected,
y'all
Yeah,
do
that's the only
not,
thing we need to do.
if y'all
So
do
all right,
not,
so let's-
then you have to do it on the 12th.
Yeah.
If y'all got an
because you
idea
get so much
there,
time for
let's let her come up with a figure. If somebody wants to do a change on that,
That means as far as the raise wise, if y'all had a different figure than what Judge put in, we need to come up with it today.
Otherwise, it'll have to be the 12th, and then y'all will have to adopt the first meeting in September. It'll push everything back.
It can be done wherever you want to.
y'all have a different idea.
I mean, I like to.
I'm trying to cut the deficit. That was something important. And I wanna make sure that we gave a decent raise to help them with the cost of living. If y'all wanna add add something to it or something?
I like to see a different one. I think that, I know it's gonna raise the deficit some, but I would like to see, I think, when I started, we were doing 1,200. I think that's so, if we can, at least 2,000, just to see. I mean, that's not saying we're gonna be able to do it, but at least 2,000, like we did last year. I don't know. What if they, another 400,000, so.
Well, when we did the 1,500, that ended up being over $300,000. We go to two, I can figure it, hold on, let me turn the phone back on. I can give you a ballpark. 228 employees, right?
Yes. 26 or 28?
How much did we give last year out of the ARPA fund?
Well, that was the year before.
No, that was the year before.
No, it was last
Well,
year, it was last year.
It was last
It was
year.
in twenty-three.
It was 1,500, so we actually gave
27.
I have it all
No,
written together.
3,500.
2,000.
You sure it was 50?
It was 3,500
Yes, because
last
we gave a raise of 2,000.
Yeah.
So even if we went to ARPA and we proposed 2,000 out of ARPA for each employee.
Well, what we could do is leave the budget like it is, and then figure an ARPA amount to go with it as a one-time expenditure.
And then maybe you can make it up the next time or something.
And then,
We gotta figure out something.
With the 1,200 side, I mean. Or
But I'm talking about as far as the ARPA wise.
yeah, I understand it's easy to get by.
but if you
that-
wanna go ARPA,
Yeah,
we could do that. But
Could look at
tell me
that.
what, are you talking about another 1,000 out of ARPA?
What do you think?
I mean,
Whatever
I wanna be
I mean, I just,
$1,000.
I mean, I'm okay. I know 1,200 would be okay. I mean, I would like to see doing more because of cost of living. I know a lot of stuff has went up.
228,000, I drop ARPA down to 2 million.
I mean, you could take some money out of ARPA, I would see doing that.
Well, if you took 1,000, that's 228, it'd drop ARPA down to about 2 million, somewhere in there. You know, that we'd have to get under contract by the end of the year.
Yes, sir.
And that'd be plus the 1,200, so that'd be 2,200.
And how do you feel about moving it, getting 250,000 for the retirements?
I'd
I'm
say
good
for
with
the
that.
retirement
That's-
system.
Well, that, and that
We
can't
do
be,
need to make a move
and
on
of course,
that
that can't
somewhere.
It
come
can't
out of
come
ARPA,
directly
but
from
it
ARPA.
can come out of general fund.
But we have to
and
take it from
Where do we
the-
start it?
I think we need to start at
It
500.
can't
I
come
don't
out.
think we need to do 225. If we have an opportunity, well, 250, if we have an opportunity to help with the retirement, 'cause I knew the big,
If we do 250, and then next year, we just start doing 250 every year, and if we see we can increase it, then go to 500.
Well, if we
well,
do,
but if you do 500
It
this
needs
time,
something
it's
done.
actually
You
not
do
coming,
500, I can't remember.
it's coming out of ARPA.
And actually,
Next year it's gonna come from us.
I
It'll
don't
come
know
from
why
ARPA
they ain't
now.
never,
Well,
and actually,
paid
if you
it
choose,
now.
what we would have to do is, you can't take ARPA and
You
use
can't
it for
take
the
it
retirement.
yeah, I
So
understand.
what we would have to
Pay
do
another
is
item.
reduce
That's
another item by
Like you said.
500,000
Take 500 off of that one.
and use
Sure.
ARPA.
And you transfer that
Yeah.
line out of the.
Okay.
You better
like the
wait and
meals,
vote on that
the
tomorrow.
Yes,
meals
sir.
are close to 500,000.
What we can do is
that
figure out how much we have,
Mm-hmm.
reduce it by 500,000.
You better talk about that
So
tomorrow.
would y'all rather do that? Do
Might
y'all wanna
sleep
try
on
to
it
Also-
tonight.
add a raise?
also,
More raise or stay with 12?
Oh, your auditors got something. for you.
also, if you do make a contribution, it lowers your retirement rate, so it does save it a little bit.
But if we
Use the
leave
same
the
rate.
retirement rate the
Yes.
same, then we're still paying down that debt too,
Yes,
right?
yes, because that rate has that built into it.
Okay.
Okay, well, since we're on retirement, can I ask a couple of questions about our healthcare real fast? Since we're gonna have one day tomorrow, maybe you can call in the morning, get a couple of questions answered.
Okay,
Okay, so we're gonna be sticking with tech, correct?
yes.
Okay.
I feel like it's a little too late to
Go
try
out.
and change,
Okay.
because
All
we're
right,
doing budget
so
right now.
We'll be sticking with tech, but by us sticking with tech, right now, we're currently under Blue Cross Blue Shield for our medical.
Yes,
Okay. Could TAC go out and see if they can bundle all of our Blue Cross Blue Shield? Because you'll get a discount, county-wise, governments, all of them will get a discount, state, federal, and local, from Blue Cross Blue Shield,
bundle what?
if they bundle, but that means we'll have to change our vision and our dental.
We have already sent requests to TAC for our dental and vision, but we don't have anything tacked yet.
Well, they all have to be bundled to Blue Cross Blue Shield, it'll put us in a different pool, and we'll get lower rates.
We've sent all the stuff to them, and we don't have rates yet. I tried to do it last year, but it was too late, and
Cause I know
So,
that
we've already
medical's going up.
we've already sent TAC everything to get rates on that.
Okay, well, medical's going up
Haven't
over the board, 7.4%, and then prescriptions are going up 11.5%. But if we get that discount,
Yeah, I'm already one step ahead, because I've already requested it, but we don't have any rates yet.
it'll
I mean,
flatline out those.
Yeah.
That'll cost us about
Bundle discount.
That sounds better to me, 1800s to 12.
What's that, sir?
I was saying we could, if we wanna do something with the retirement system on the raise, if you wanna go from 1,200 to 1,500, that'd be about another $80,000 to the budget. So it wouldn't impact the deficit quite as much.
Okay, so,
How much?
Just
if you
twelve,
went to
$1,500
instead of 12.
Instead of a $1,200 increment increase, go to $1,500. And that'd add about, I think, around $80,000. And if we did that, that would give them a little more raise. What do y'all think about that? I would just like to give Megan some numbers so she can
Yeah.
plug them in,
yeah.
and we can set these salaries tomorrow.
Give her that number.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do y'all think? 1,500?
We don't care.
Yeah, she can plug that in, we'll see that.
Huh?
Yeah, that'd
Is there another figure you wanna look at?
Good.
If,
I'm just trying to save
yeah,
time
if you
for her.
give them $1,000 out of ARPA, how much would they actually bring home out of that? Can you tell us that figure?
I can't tell you off the top of my head.
And I ain't talking about today, just,
Yes. And that was the issue with the last
yeah.
thing. Most employees, not all, most employees brought home more money, with us lumping it in with their paycheck than us doing a separate paycheck.
Yes.
Because if we did a separate paycheck, everybody would be taxed at,
That's
I
what
wanna
I-
say it was 24%
Yeah,
automatic.
That's what I was getting
Automatic.
at. 'Cause
That's why we went back and
what it was.
changed it.
Yes.
But frankly, I'm gonna speak my piece on this. If they get a separate check, they're mad at the government for taxing them too much, not mad at the county.
Yeah,
It was kinda
But
like
we
paying
got
property
'em more
taxes
money
when
in
they
their
see the
pocket.
schools and they pull
It is what it is. I've been doing
Yeah,
it
last
35
time
Yeah.
they was mad at us,
too many times.
Yeah.
he's mad at us.
Yeah, they were mad at us.
But they got more money in their pocket doing it with their regular check.
yeah.
Okay, so do you wanna?
I mean, it was a good chunk. It was,
But they
it
didn't
was
see it,
most
yeah.
of the
Okay,
county.
so could you give us, y'all,
So
tell me if this is
1,500.
all right, if she gives us two figures. One, if we just added 1,000 out of ARPA, and then if we have the salary increase to 1,500 instead of 1,200. Is that okay with y'all?
Yeah, we'll look at it.
So what's the,
Are we gonna be trying to do both?
Well,
No,
not
no,
necessarily, no.
One of
You'll
the,
know one.
So what do you-
Because-
what do
Because we can use that ARPA to pay down the deficit, so.
No.
And I wanna, and y'all are talking $500,000 on the retirement system, so that's gonna come out of ARPA too. So
no,
we did,
that will not come out of ARPA. That can't.
well, okay.
yeah.
It'll come out of general fund. I don't want you to say it, I want you to say it right.
Let me say it the right way. We could reduce
Yeah,
our
we
general
understand.
fund budget and use ARPA money for the meals and the medical, correct?
Okay, so
Yeah,
1,000
probably
ARPA
$100,000
incentive is what you said?
I'll say it.
1,000 ARPA incentive
Or 1,500.
You already got more
or
money than we got.
1,500 ARPA incentive?
No, or 1,500
No, you
on
got
the
that
salary, instead of 1,200.
Seventeen, that's
Plug in
right.
and going to
We got to
1,500.
split that up.
So what, you just wanna know what the cost would be for the $1,000 to
Yeah, so that'd be
employees from
$300
ARPA?
We give
increase.
$100,000 apiece.
No, I got that.
You got that.
Instead of 1,200, 1,500, I got that. But the $1,000 ARPA, you just wanna know how much overall that would cost?
How much that would cost. And of course, on the ARPA, elected officials and appointed officials can't have it.
Correct.
Is that okay?
Hey, you can't leave. Hey, you can't leave.
Does that sound all right with everybody then?
This ain't over.
Is there anything else that she needs to figure? Or does that sound pretty good?
Sounds all
What's
right.
that?
Okay.
Okay, well, I have to go, I have work to do.
1,000 or in the 1,500.
Yeah.
If she comes back with those numbers, I'm just asking if there's any
That was
other
not
thing we wanna look at,
consensus of
so
all
we
that.
have the numbers when we come to court tomorrow.
And we can look at, I'm pretty sure all of us, can probably spend an extra $50,000 on our budget.
Rashad,
The road and bridge fund this year, correct?
Let's pay them.
I have to go, I have a lot of work to do.
If y'all can, I know I can increase it too, since I get the least amount for the market funds, how about I get $50,000?
You got 12 miles of road, how much
No,
that
I
cost?
don't. I got 200 miles of road.
Okay. All right, so are we good?
Yes.
They don't,
All right.
they don't earn overtime.
Thank y'all.
The amount
I thought we
before was
did good today.
35.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn unless somebody else has got something.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Dixon, is there a second by Commissioner Hill? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, can stay by themselves.
9:30.